All right, ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me okay? We're settled in for the first Sunday event of this season, so welcome to the Wittliff Collections here at Texas State University for a program and an exhibit that we are so proud of. Scott Newton Beyond Limits, which dovetails with the 50th anniversary of Austin City Limits. And before we kick in, I just want to say that, first of all, recognize some of the folks in the audience, but also the help that we received. This exhibit was put together with a lot of help. First of all, from Luis Patino and his team with Jonathan Stevenson there at PBS, and also Stephen Walker at Modern Rocks Gallery, and also from my fellow curators and the archivist here, because, you know, when you're dealing with such beautiful work and also the span of 50 years, you want to, be thoughtful in those selections of photographs, which is what we are here to really talk about, but also how that intertwines and intersects with Austin City Limits and that great history. Again, I want to hear them talk, but I do want to set the scene a little bit when we start talking in terms of 50 years, half a century. 50 years ago, on October 17th, right, we're having Willie going to, not recreate, but celebrate the pilot for Austin City Limits, which was October 17th, 1974, correct? Okay, so... but in 74, think about this. The country was still reeling from Watergate. In October of 74, Richard Nixon had just resigned a couple of months earlier. He'd then been pardoned by President Gerald Ford. Barbra Streisand's song, The Way We Were, was all over the radio.
LBJ just died.
LBJ had just died not too long before that. Hank Aaron had busted Babe Ruth's home run record. Ramones had played their very first gig in New York City. I mean, pretty wild times. And here you're talking about a TV show that its pilot predates Saturday Night Live, which a lot of hoopla you've heard lately is about to celebrate its 50th season. But anyway, I want to your right, my left, introduce Scott Newton, the photographer, and Terry Lickona, executive producer of Austin City Limits. And I thought I'd get the conversation going this way, that both these individuals come from outside of Texas, but yet so much of their perspective has shaped our perception of what Texas is and what Texas music is about. I mean, Scott's body of work, and Terry Lickona's as well, is an amazing testament not only to Texas, but to Texas music and what it was and what it is continuing to become. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. And then people, and it's not only Texans that are interested in it. Last week, Terry was part of a panel in Nashville at the Americana Fest conference, and one of the most attended sessions in one of the bigger auditoriums at the Country Music Hall of Fame was exactly about the 50th anniversary of Austin City Limits. So my first question to you guys, to Scott, what's it like not only to witness history, but also to be part of creating the perception of it?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's fun to be right in the middle of everything, which is why I was doing it. It was the funnest thing in town, was to be right up front and shoot your favorite people doing what they do, which is, music. And music is a deep thing, and it's a complicated thing. And I got to do it, and I gave myself the assignment of doing it for as long as I could. And after a while, I started making a living doing it, and it was fun.
Terry, how about for yourself? I mean, you've shaped those shows, you book the shows, you introduce them, you do those interviews, but what's it like? I mean, because, we look around this room, I mean, those photos take on almost a different ideal, apart from the show. I guess, talk about that.
Well, first of all, I don't pretend to take credit for the idea behind Austin City Limits. In fact, I
Right.
literally was not even in Texas at the time they taped that first pilot show with Willie, but I came here soon after. And I've been involved with ACL since about season 3 and as producer beginning with season 4. But when the show started, it was more of a fun thing to do. The Austin PBS station had just moved into a new facility on the University of Texas campus, and they had this big studio, and they didn't quite know what to do with it. And the Austin music scene was really exploding at that time in the early to mid-'70s. The call it what you will, outlaw music scene, cosmic cowboy, progressive country. And Willie, of course, had staked his new home in Austin after moving back to Texas from Nashville. And so the whole idea behind the show was really, let's try this out. Let's see if we can do a few of these programs and find the money to keep going. But nobody in their wildest imagination thought that this would last even 10 years, let alone 50. But over that time, it's become more than just an entertainment program. It's really, it captures many, many different slices of American music and beyond, in a way that has such historical value to it that, as Scott knows from just taking the photographs that he has, it's become much more meaningful than we ever thought it was going to be back in the day.
And one of the things Bill Wittliff would always stress was always searching for those materials that give inspiration. He wanted young people especially to know that you just don't get to the top of your profession easily. And these two men right here are examples of people that really saw an opportunity and took it, jumped right in there, and invented their roles. I mean, Terry, you were from New York. You were a DJ. You were interested in what was the music that was happening in Texas, and you take a road trip, right? And Scott, you just picked up a camera, but thanks to that, you captured some of the greatest moments of Texas music. And
I'd like to say it's all luck, but in retrospect, it seems like it's planned out. I don't know how you do that.
A lot of what we did back in the day or at that age was whimsical, serendipitous, just impulse, crazy impulse. I was 20-something years old, fresh out of college from upstate New York. I just wanted to see what it'd be like to go live someplace else. And I'd heard about Texas and certainly about the Austin music scene. So I packed up my bags and drove down here and just decided, well, I'll find a job as a radio DJ somewhere in Austin and see what happens next. But the music was also a big driver for me. I have never pretended to be a musician, have no particular talent in that area, but I love all kinds of music and always have. So the opportunity to basically paint a palette with this music show and maybe take it beyond how it started as Austin City Limits and as a showcase for Austin and Texas music and make it that much more, which we've been very successful at doing over the last 50 years.
Well, I want Scott to tell us the story about the phone call of how you got the job at Austin City Limits, because again, it just...
Okay, I was the house photographer at the Austin Opera House, which was owned by Willie Nelson. It was the year was 1970, probably early 79, and Willie had a bunch of people hanging around him. It's an informal hierarchy, but it was mainly his daughter and all her friends. Well, one of her friends was Atlanta, and one of her friends was Jody Fisher, and Jody Fisher was also a friend of mine. Anyway, Jody and I are back in my darkroom. I had a darkroom in the Opera House. What a great deal that was. I wished I'd known what a great deal that was. I would have worked it a lot harder. But anyway, so she's saying, I heard they need a photographer over at Austin City Limits. And I'll never forget, I looked at her, I said, I don't know anybody over there. She says, well, I do. And she picked up my phone. It was a rotary phone. I'll never forget her dialing it. She goes, Terry, there's somebody you need to meet. And then he hands me the phone, and I'm in conversation, or she hands me the phone, and I'm in conversation with Terry, and we agreed to meet the next day, and I could show him my work, and I did. I went in, I showed him my slides. I'll never forget him holding, he had an office with a window out to the outside, so he's holding up the slides and he's saying, God, these are better than anything we've got. And he didn't say you're hired, but he said, I'm pretty sure you're hired, but I have a few more interviews I have to do.
Well, so the truth of the matter is I became the producer, like I said, in season 4. We didn't really have a photographer for Austin City Limits those early years. We had somebody on staff who loved to take photos, but as we all know, just because you like to be a photographer doesn't mean you're really good at it. And he was okay at it. Let's leave it at that. But I didn't really have a clue how to begin the search for a photographer. So when you called and then showed up at my office the next day and showed me these amazing photographs that you had taken, it was like a no-brainer. Why should I bother to look anymore? I mean, there's the guy right here. So you got the job.
That's a long time ago. I've been doing that job 46 years.
What was your first impression of Scott, though?
Pretty much the same impression that I have now.
I haven't changed much.
Pretty much a free spirit and someone who just loved, was obsessed with what he did and was really good at what he did, but had his own way of doing things and a philosophy behind how he did it, which he would be happy to tell you about. And I mean, that combination of skills makes an artist, whether you're a photographer, a painter, a sculptor, a musician, or whatever. And I saw that quality in him right away.
I'm curious, 'cause I've been to a lot of, like I'm sure many of us have been to the tapings and have seen it, but what goes on when that light, when the light goes on, it's taping, what are the roles? What are you thinking about as you're
Just for me?
Yeah, well, yeah, for you.
Well, the main imperative for me is don't get in the shot, don't get in the way, don't get in the camera's way. So once you take that off the table, then do whatever you want. So, don't get in anybody's way and come up with good creative images. And so for me, it's almost automatic. I don't think about it. I actually let the muse take over if I don't know what to do. Right. And she guides me well. So that's one of those things. I'll talk about the muse probably for a little bit, but because I took ancient Greek going to school, going to UT, and so I'm taking ancient Greek, translating the Odyssey, and then going to the armadillo at night. And there was a cross-pollination that happened there. It was real. It was real. I'm reading Plato, reading about Socrates talking about the muse and how he doesn't do anything without listening to his muse. And I'm reading that in ancient Greek, and then going to the armadillo at night, thinking about the muse, and I realized I had an inkling. I can see it. I can see the muse. I can see it when she's there, when she's, working with the person. Because what happens is people take on that inspiration. And the Greeks thought of it as people weren't that smart. They weren't that imaginative. It has to be coming from some divine place. And so that the word that they used for that was the muse, the 9 muses. Each of them had a different art or science that they favored. Anyway, so the Greeks believe in praying to gods and stuff, for inspiration, not dissimilar to the way it is today, I suppose. But back then, it was all there was. So I
have a feeling that this vision was also, how shall we say, enhanced by certain inspirations.
I'll cop to it. I'm a child of the psychedelic age, although I quit a long time ago. But man, once you're on that mountaintop, you never forget what you saw.
At the risk of stating the obvious, you have what's considered a dream gig as a music photographer.
Dream gig.
I mean, at most concerts, whether you may or may not know this, but most photographers, say for the newspaper or whatnot, are limited to maybe shooting the first 3 songs of a concert, and usually from the back of the room. Scott has full access. Sometimes artists may push back. Yes, you did. And he can shoot every song of every show up front. He has no competition other than from our TV cameras. And he can, if you've been to a taping, you'll see him do his dance around those cameras, around the audience, looking for the right angle, the perfect shot, which he always manages to find, somehow without colliding head on with one of the cameras or tripping all over them.
That's one of the things you got to know how to do.
But it is that access alone, and with the lighting that, of course, we have for television, so much better than what you might find at a concert where the artist might be in shadow or in some weird green light. So,
well, Terry, as usual,
how many pictures do you shoot at a typical show these days?
Okay, so any show you see, the show lasts about an hour and a half of shooting time. I shoot anywhere between 600 and 2,000 shots. And so that's That's not the hard part. The hard part is editing. The shoot takes an hour and a half, but the edit takes 2 to 3 days, and so
That's a far cry from the old days when Scott started out, being a public television show and all. We had a tight film budget.
2 rolls.
So I remember talking to Scott, well, all right, you can shoot more black and white, but for color, only 1 roll of
120. Of
color
120.
film. So.
And I was using a Hasselblad, 12 shots. Anyway, that's how I began. Oh, also $35. I was paid $35 a show. It's not a living wage, in case.
Nobody does it for the money.
Speaking of all those shots that Scott and I went through, a lot of them, I should mention that, Scott's muse, besides being Susie Valentine in the front row, is also this little guy, which was literally in our labs, picking helping us pick the photos. You think I'm kidding? He jumps up there. He's there, right in front of the screen, looking at the different shots, and so.
Should he get a credit?
Some of these photos may be because he was wagging his tail more.
Should he get a credit for his editor for the?
I didn't. No, as usual.
I didn't know that.
Overlooked.
Something new.
So, with the idea of the show and the photographs, I've been thinking about this a lot, and especially after Terry's session there in Nashville. He has like an encyclopedic and photographic mind of the episodes. I mean, going back, it's a lot of, think of all the shows that Austin City Limits has done. But to me, the photos take on a sort of a different meaning apart from the shows, and I guess I would ask both of y'all, when you look at the different images around here and on the screens, what is it that we get from the photo of that moment than just, seeing the episode again on tape or, reliving an episode? Any idea on that? What, like, in other words, what are we projecting onto that image, or what are you seeing when you see those photos?
When I shoot anything, but it's especially true with music, as I'm photographing the spirit. And so that's an abstract thought, and photons don't bounce off spirit. But luckily, the spirit that inhabits bodies arranges, according to the spirit that's underneath, kind of like magnetism. If you put iron filings on a piece of paper, you don't see the lines of magnetism, but they sure show up on the paper. That kind of thing is going on, too, in photography. We're all spirits dressed in bodies, is the way I see it. So I'm shooting the thing that photons do bounce off, but I'm inferring the spirit that's guiding that thing. So that's how I work.
Every show that we do has a different energy behind it, different spirit to it. And it's different capturing a live performance on video from what Scott is able to capture literally in a split second. It could be a show without necessarily naming names, an artist who maybe all they do is just stand in one place or sit at a piano and play and sing their hearts out, not necessarily bouncing around all over stage doing acrobatics or with dance choreography, some of which have been the most amazing shows that we have done over the years. But sometimes it's just that simple moment that is the most expressive, that brings out that emotion that, frankly, the video does not capture as well.
Still photography is really good at that. It's good at condensing things down to one freeze frame, one image. That's why you shoot so much, because you're after that one perfect image that says all the things you want to say.
And the reality is that when push comes to shove, all of those 2,000 or whatnot images that you shoot are reduced to usually 1, maybe 2, that's used for publicity purposes, for social media and so forth.
Emily, that's more than that. It's what do we get it down? What do we send off to management? 10? So I do culls. I go through. Emily's she's an editor. She's the best editor. She kills the kids I don't have the power to kill. And she does it well. The survivors are great. So anyway, seriously, they are. It's a winnowing. But it's a process, and it's not easy. And I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
I think you covered it.
Well, the story of Austin City Limits is really one of evolution and having to change with the times, with the audience, and trying to, keep your soul, but also realizing that the times are changing. They've done that through that creation of that music festival, through the new venue, but also through the change of artists, to move to the kind of music and the sort of presentations it was making. Terry, many times you've said it was that Ray Charles concert that kind of represents a different path forward. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what the thinking was there? I know the program began as a regional show featuring Asleep at the Wheel, Willie Nelson, Rusted Weir, the artists that we all love. But and then you took over a couple of years in, right? You're coming in from the KUT side and then working as a volunteer and then as an assistant producer, then the crew
You know the
leaves and
history
you
better
take...
than I do, Hector. No, but you're right. The show started out as a showcase for Austin and Texas music, primarily the country music that Austin was making to sort of like counter what was coming out of Nashville at the time. But the key to our success for 50 years has been the show's evolution, as opposed to if we were still doing or covering the same kind of music that we did back then, I don't see how relevant that would be in 2024. And discovery has always been a big part of the ACL story and the philosophy behind the show. Even back then, we were like discovering music coming out of Austin and Texas that the rest of the world had never seen. We probably got more mail in that first season about Flaco Jimenez as we did about Willie or some of the other better-known Texas artists who appeared on the show. And I know, speaking of discovery, I could not count the number of times that Scott has come up to me in a rehearsal on a taping day, and he'll say, I never heard of this person or this band before, Terry, but where did you find them? They're amazing.
When it's true, I say it. And it's often true. Terry's way ahead of everybody, as far as I can tell.
Not necessarily everybody, but I mean, it really is an important part of the show's appeal. The people watching also say the same thing, that they tune in to watch Austin City Limits because they know they're going to see something good. If it's somebody they already know, like a Ray Charles, or if it's some new singer or songwriter or an artist from a different genre, whether it's Latin or hip-hop, they figure if they're good enough to be on Austin City Limits, then it's worth watching.
I mean, was there ever any resistance to some of that? I mean, like, say, for example, Billie Eilish or even Ray Charles, that's quite I could see where maybe some folks may not think that's Texas music.
It's hard. Of course, there's resistance to just about every show that we do because not everything is for everybody's musical taste. And yes, there are people who still will complain that we don't do the same types of shows or music that we did back in the 70s and 80s. But, the answer to that is, well, you don't have to watch. Nobody's forcing you to watch the show. Tune in next week. You might like next week's show better than this week. And invariably, they usually do. So, I don't know. It's part of it is a gamble as far as what is going to work, what's going to appeal to our audience. We don't really have to worry as much about ratings as other commercial programs on network TV. And PBS has been a great home for us over the years. It's really the only place where Austin City Limits could have existed and thrived as much as it has for 50 years. They've never told us who I should book for a show or not to book. And the interesting, ironic thing about it is that, yes, we will have classic legacy artists like Jackson Browne or Bonnie Raitt on the show, and then we'll have a Billie Eilish or Olivia Rodrigo. And that definitely brings in younger eyeballs to public television, which they don't often get unless it's something like Sesame Street. So the irony is our show is 50 years old, but we tend to draw as much or more younger viewers than any other public television program.
I mean, could Austin...
It covers all of the generations. I think we're probably on our third generation of fans and artists by now.
I mean, for both of y'all, what made Austin such a perfect incubator for that show? And could that show, could a show like that start in any other city today? I mean, is there a way that a city could...
I don't think so. Over the years, we've had people approach us from Orlando. Of course, Nashville would be an obvious example of a place that could do their own music show. But it never seems to really get off the ground for one reason or another. But there are, certain things about Austin that makes it the perfect home. I mean, the support of the PBS station in Austin back in the day. Austin City Limits began, I think it's 6 years after public television was created, signed into law by LBJ. So the idea of introducing this basically country music program for a public television audience did not maybe necessarily seem like the smartest thing to do for the PBS station in Austin. But down through the years, when it came to supporting the show during good times and bad, they were there. They found the money through underwriters or locally to maintain our production budget year after year. And the people of Austin, the businesses, the industries, the city of Austin itself has contributed substantially to the success of Austin City Limits over the years. I can't imagine that happening, Hector, in any other city. Not that same quality and that same depth of support that we have not taken for granted, but really need from the community itself. And the audiences, one last thing, the audiences that come to our tapings are the best you could possibly ask for.
Yes, yeah.
And the artists know that. The artists see that right away. And when it comes to doing most television, whether it's SNL or Stephen Colbert, the audiences are small and they don't necessarily even know who the artist is performing. But our audiences, they know. They're real music fans. They come in to see and hear great music, and they're never disappointed.
Well, I'd like to say about that Austin itself is one of the characters, one of the stars of the show. It's the atmosphere of the people who live here. All of us really are part of it. We're here because
there's a skyline, which has changed a little
bit. This is taken from the Hyatt Regency in 1983. I was up there doing a political shoot with Ann Richards. And we just did a portrait of her. But when she moved out, I said, "Get out of the way, Ann. I need to take a picture of the city." I really did.
The original skyline backdrop was based on this photograph.
Well, actually, it's not. It's based on one I took before that. But you asked me to go take pictures of the skyline, and the one I shot that served as a template for the skyline was taken at the front steps of St. Ed's.
Well, that's true. You can't see the tower.
Right, exactly. And it all lined up perfectly then. Now you have a hard time doing it without a drone.
You know, as the skyline began to change in the 80s and 90s, we actually added a couple of buildings to the original skyline in Studio 6A. And, you know, after about a year, we thought, hey, it doesn't really look...
It just chunks it up.
Yeah. So we said, well, you know, if we try to keep up with the way Austin skyline is changing, we'd have to be redesigning it every year.
We just put up cranes every once in a while.
That covers it pretty well.
And Scott, talk a little bit about your upbringing. Your mom's about to turn 100. Is that correct?
Will be 100 in January. Yeah.
Your dad was a fighter pilot.
Yeah. My mother and father were from Rochester, New York. They met as high school students together, and they've been together. They were together until my dad died when he was 88, which was 12 years ago. So, talk about my upbringing. My dad was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. I grew up all over the world, went to many schools. Let's see. When I found Austin, I'd already seen bombed out Germany, bombed out Philippines. I'd seen all that stuff. I graduated high school in Clark Air Base in the Philippines, so I had a real wide upbringing. And so when I found Austin, I knew what I was looking at. This place is special, and so I sunk in and had my family here. My two marriages are here, all that, and my current wife, all that. Anyway, all that being, I'm getting too personal here, but. My upbringing, it was wide, it was varied, it was cosmopolitan, and I was a member, obviously, of the Greening of America. I was one of the charter hippies. So this is a great place to raise a family, and it's a great place, period.
Yeah, and you were an English major, and you were a history major, right?
American history. Yes.
Yes.
And I took ancient Greek, and that's what really set me off.
Well, it's evident to me because I live it all the time, but the thread line of how important New York is to Texas music is incredible. In the music gallery, we have the Viva Terlingua exhibit about Jerry Jeff Walker, another New Yorker who made his impact on Texas music.
I shot those pictures, those wedding pictures of Susan and Jerry Jeff before I ever, shot City Limits. So.
Well, one of the things that I think the audience would want to know, I'm certainly interested. What's the relationship like, or with the artists? I mean, is it possible these days to become friends with them? Are you friends? Do you stay
Terry,
out of their way, or
I'll let him talk. But Terry meets them and he deals with them on a personal level. I only see them at rehearsal, really, and some of them, seek me out. Like a few of them, as a photographer, but not really. It doesn't hardly ever happen. But Terry, that's part of his deal. I mean, I'll let him speak for himself.
That's one of my favorite parts of the job, frankly, is getting to know the artists. I mean, literally from the moment they walk in the door until the show is over. And I do my post-show interviews, which is my favorite part of the day, having an opportunity for a one-on-one conversation just like we're doing now in the dressing room after the show. But yeah, I mean, I would say 90-some% of the time, the artists are genuinely good people, happy, thrilled to be there and doing the show. They totally get the value of what Austin City Limits stands for. And sometimes they're a little on edge, a little nervous when they come in to do it because they do understand the value of the show. But I always come away with almost always a positive impression and experience, considering what they do. You know, if you put yourself in their places, going out on tour, playing stadiums, knowing that you're booked like a year ahead, your whole life is basically laid out in front of you, and you've got to live up to that, or try anyway, or else people are going to be disappointed. And you've got a whole cast and crew of people whose livings depend on you. That's a lot of stress. You can see how it affects, especially some of the younger artists. But as far as Scott's role as a photographer, one of the funny things I've noticed is that, yes, you think coming in to do television would be nerve-wracking enough and stressful. But sometimes it's Scott with that camera out front of the stage that kind of drives them a little...
Drives them batshit crazy.
Yeah. Well, maybe I wasn't going to say that, but... And Nora Jones was the first
Nora's the worst.
example that comes to mind.
This is the good stuff. All right.
Sorry.
She is a beautiful soul, great singer,
all that.
So much talent there.
So much.
And she is inherently shy, and again, just coming in to do television was enough to make her nervous. But in rehearsal, or was it during the actual taping, Scott is out there, and she gave him the...
Oh, she gives me the evil eye performance. Evil eye. Yeah, she does. And then she gives me the finger, the cross, you know. And I always think, God, doesn't she remember last time she loved all the pictures I took? She never remembers.
Well, we'll be taping a new show with Nora in about a week, so we'll see how it goes this time.
I get to do it again.
And there'll be a restraining order against Scott.
But an interesting footnote, your camera obviously no longer makes a shutter noise.
Right.
I think that was something during a soft passage of a song like a Nora Jones song. They could hear that, and you could hear it almost everywhere. You could almost hear it everywhere in the room.
I can turn off the shutter noise now with the new digital cameras. There are some nice equipment changes, improvements, excuse me.
Well, some of those shots of Waylon Jennings looks like he was ready to kill you.
He was. That was at the Armadillo, and he just kicked somebody. And I was heading up there, and somebody said, "Watch out, he just kicked somebody." You know, okay.
Well,
so anyway, I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he went, "Okay, you're all right, I guess." You know.
We taped that show with Waylon at 11 o'clock in the morning. After I had confirmed the show, they said, we want to do it at 11 o'clock in the morning. And so, I said, well, do you have to be somewhere the next day or that night? If that's what you say, we'll try to make it work, which doesn't leave much time for rehearsal and all that. But basically, the bottom line was, you don't want to wait until nighttime to do the show. It's best to get them early in the day.
Earlier the better.
Mm-hmm. And it was a great show.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
We really captured the essence.
No, that show that he kicked somebody was not at our show. It was at the Armadillo much before.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, Hector, you're probably going to ask, but I can't resist. I mean, obviously, there's a difference between film photography and digital, and between black and white and color. And I know you, I don't know if resisted is the right word, the whole idea of going over to digital.
Actually, no. As soon as it got more than 3,000 by 2,000 pixels, I went. And it was a Nikon D1X.
So you wouldn't say that you're a traditionalist?
No, not really. No, I'm happy. I'm so happy.
I know you are
digital.
now, but I mean,
I love digital. As soon as I saw what it did, I was converted because of all that film. I mean, geez, Louise, you divide 36 into anyway. It comes up many more. You get to take many more pictures for nothing. So it's a far better deal.
And it's not that easy to archive all of that film, as Emily, our archivist, can attest. which we have done, though. We have archived all of that stuff.
It's all done now. It's a big improvement to have it done.
So, Scott, on your digital camera, though, are you kind of monitoring those shots? I mean, you wouldn't have done that with 35 millimeter, right?
Well, it's a totally different way to shoot. There's no cost. So as a result, you can machine gun things. You get them all framed up, everything perfect, and you cover it. I mean, not with high frame, because that's wasteful. But, you can waste a lot more. If you're shooting film, it costs money. So in the beginning days, seriously, that was a consideration. In fact, Bill, our host, used to bitch a lot about the cost of photography. But anyway, that's another matter. Bill was our original CEO guy who thought up Austin City Limits.
Yeah, I mean, budget was a real thing, and frankly, it still is in today's world of public television. So, film may not seem like a big expense, but, I mean, even back in the day, we recycled videotapes, and there were some of the video recordings of, like, Stevie Ray Vaughan, among others, that were erased in order to be reused for the next show. Again, nobody was really thinking down the road 50 years.
Well, we kind of surprised everybody. We're good, and we're a lot better than they expected. And that's really how it comes down, I think. They're getting a lot of value for.
And there's nothing else quite like it, if I do say so.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to say earlier. One of the reasons for our success is there's no dog food commercials between songs. we did the Texas Connection with
Nashville Network.
Yeah, Nashville Network, that's right. And we did it just like we do City Limits, except for when you go to watch it, in between the love songs are dog food commercials. And nothing will blow.
Always dog food commercials?
It seemed like it to me. Woof, woof. Anyway, so at least in retrospect. So, no, the commercial aspect just disrupts the flow. You got to have a flow going in order to convey a set, somebody's flow of communication, of song. Anyway, that's my take.
And Terry, how many times have you been surprised by just the emotional impact or emotional moments that happen at that show? Because, I mean, I've been to some tapings. Sometimes they would be pretty, I don't want to say paint by the numbers, but you know how it's going to go. It's a great artist. It's going to be but, there are sometimes some emotional surprises. Any stick out maybe as far as...
Too many stick out to even begin to mention, Hector. I mean, really, and almost every show has some sort of emotional moment or many different moments to it. And again, I couldn't count the number of times I'll hear an artist come up to me maybe or during the interview after the show and talk about how special it was, not just because it was Austin City Limits, but their performance. They'll often say, "This is the best show I've done all year." Or, they'll say, the audience just blew me away. Kendrick Lamar, who's used to playing at big festivals, said that playing at our taping was almost like playing at a festival. That's how much the energy felt to him on stage. And Sam Smith, when he first came to do the show during his first tour, he said, this is the best show I've done in the States since my career began. And to hear that is kind of almost too good, hard to believe anyway. But there are a lot of those moments where you get goosebumps, whether it's hearing Roy Orbison hit those high notes or somebody singing a really emotional ballad. Sometimes they are in tears while they're singing, and the audience is in tears. Or when people are singing along. Jacob Collier, one of the most brilliant younger artists who's done a new show that'll air as part of our 50th season coming up in just a few weeks. He had the audience in the palm of his hand. He was orchestrating, the crowd as they were singing along. Stuff like that is really, and to be able to capture that on our show.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that stuck with me from your comments in Nashville was how much the musicians are just really worried about the music. That's their main, I mean, obviously, but I mean that why they love playing that show, that they know the music's going to be great. It's going to sound, the way that they want. I think
sometimes they care more about that than anything else. I mean, Lyle Lovett has done our show more times than anybody but Willie Nelson. And I saw him not too long ago, and I asked him about a show that he had done. And he said, I don't ever watch any of my shows. He said, I want to make sure the music mix is perfect, but I hate to watch myself on TV. And I hear that from a lot of artists.
Really?
Understandably so. They don't like to look at themselves on those close-up shots. But they want to make sure that it sounds good.
Well, the archivist team here and the curators, I mean, we're constantly digging into materials that are 50 years old, 75 years old, old stuff. Where is Austin City Limits going? I mean, we're fortunate that we have you here, to tell us what it was like 50 years ago. But what do you hope people learn 50 years from now about what that show, and where do you see the future of the program?
Well, no surprise, but given my love of history, to me, the history of what we're doing is just as important as the entertainment value. So that's why it's so important and gratifying to know that these shows have been archived, digitized, and preserved basically for posterity. And they have become this treasure chest of American and beyond American music, whether it's a full-length performance of Ray Charles or B.B. King or Tom Waits or Kendrick Lamar, which you don't get from a one-shot appearance on SNL or on a late-night show. And there are no other than music videos, no other music programs on television. When MTV and VH1 came along, there was this talk about, well, how can Austin City Limits survive with, music videos are all the rage right now, and this is just a concert. Why should people want to watch that? Well, as it turns out, if you tune in to MTV or VH1, you probably won't see much music at all on videos or otherwise. And likewise, when they predicted the death of public television, when arts and entertainment and discovery and nature, National Geographic came along, and most of those programs are based on reality shows versus how they started, and public television is thriving more than ever before. So we must be doing something right, not just with ACL, but with PBS programming in general. We're reaching a very special audience that knows the difference. They appreciate it.
I think a lot of that has to do with the way production produces it. I'm trying to give Terry some credit, and Gary and all the guys that cough up this stuff. They've kept the standards high, and that's a large part, as far as I'm concerned, about why it's working.
Right. Well, this is for you, Scott, because it kind of surprised me because, the Moody Theater is so beautiful, and your images are there on such a large scale and all, throughout the building, I think really enhance what you guys are doing there. But I was, that was part of the pressure of trying to do something here. I wanted you to be happy, but then you said this is sort of a different feeling to have it in the gallery.
It's totally different. That's for the show, most of it. I shoot it as publicity shots. Usually that's how it started, but now it's art. After it's lasted a certain amount of time, and especially if you see it as a collection, you understand. Well, I guess I would like to say the intelligence behind it or the vision behind it. So I don't know how to answer.
I think it's kind of unfair to call. I've heard the term. I know they are publicity shots, but I worked in newspaper for 30 years, and these are not like any publicity shots I've ever seen. These are like chronicled history, and
that's what I do.
Like.
That's my do. I was always wanting to do art.
Well, it's not that you need to validate your work, but seeing your work displayed in a setting like this with proper lighting and so forth really does. It's got to be inspiring just to see how it has.
I feel like I've been doing the right thing with my life. So there you have it.
I think you're probably right. I think so, Scott.
I think so.
And we're all the better for it.
Should we open up? We're hoping and anticipating some good Q&A, some questions. Are we in the mood for that, folks? Should we keep going? Or
I'll do it. I love that T&A.
Yeah, but we're gonna throw microphones around to the folks so we can hear you.
Scott, can you tell us a little bit about some of the extra work that you've gotten to do with the images you've shot, even going all the way back before your Austin City Limits gig, like the new versions of books and things that you've been a part of?
Well, fortunately now I'm associated with a gallery, Modern Rocks Gallery. Stephen Walker's here somewhere, because I've been able to turn a lot of the stuff that I did early. I didn't know what I was going to do for retirement. I was shooting musicians. How was that going to work? Well, and my dad asked me that. What are you going to do, Scott, to retire? It'll be okay. I'm shooting stuff that I can sell later. Well, I was right. I can, and it's working pretty well now because we've done I've finally gotten the permission through PBS, thanks to Luis, that I can sell a certain set, 50 certain shots that are available to the public. So I can make them available to the public. That's always been my dream. And the other part of the dream was I was able to join the things I did before I started working for City Limits or outside of City Limits for the festival. I did years of the festival. I've done so many things, Texas, so many things. But now I'm able to start providing them to people, so people can have them on their walls. And I've always been able to do that with the stuff before I worked for City Limits, but now I'm finally able to do it all in one place, and that's what this show is, and that's what I'm so excited about it.
Scott's photographs are everywhere. If you walk through the Moody Center in Austin, his photographs are along the halls, in the dressing rooms, in the suites. The W Hotel for years and years had Scott Newton photographs in
Every room.
each of the hotel rooms. And that's a great thing. These are pre-Austin City Limits. But
Yeah, Hotel Magnolia. Yeah, I couldn't sell the City Limits stuff until recently. I could get permission sometimes. Before that, it had to be my stuff. So if a hotel comes to me, they're going to get my pre-City Limits thing. Except for now, I got permission to do when the Moody Center opened, their gallery up on the press box level. Those are all mine. And let's see, where was I going to go with that thought? Pardon me? Oh, yeah, well, that was a long time ago. Yeah. So anyway, they come to me for collections, and I've got them. I'm glad I have them, and so I'm not worried about retirement.
Maybe it's a little more technical than you want, but I'm looking at Willie Nelson over there, who is gigantic in many ways. But
It's a slide. It's a slide.
It's a slide that could be how do you get it to be so sharp that you can blow it up to the size of a billboard over there?
Good equipment and being able to hold still when you shoot. It's part of the job description. You can't get in the way of the cameras, and you got to be able to hold still. And when I say hold still, I mean at a 125th typically, or even a 90th. And I've always had the ability to become a tripod. Right.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
Also, I've got to credit Holland Photography, the people over there. It's amazing. And what I learned, it was really a pleasure to spend a lot of time with Scott and his dog and hanging out and looking at those photos. But it's amazing how some of the 35 millimeter photographs and the slides, the transparencies, can actually go even larger than that. Even larger than that. There were some limits to the early digital stuff that Scott had talked about, but the black and white and the color transparencies, you make like 500 meg scans or larger, and that allows them to get big.
Let's see what I want to say. Add to that. You can. Just technical. You asked a question. I can take let's see. If I was still when I shot it, 35 millimeter Tri-X, I can take up to 16 by 24 feet. And I've done that. So when at one point the old Opera House was opened up, and they turned it into some company that really jazzed it up with pictures I'd taken, and they did that. They put vinyls all over, and that's when I learned how big you can go with those things. You can go until the dots of silver are as big as the end of your fingertip. It's really amazing. Black and white stands really well. Color not so well, but black and white does.
So I've talked to so many musicians and asked them about their experience on Austin City Limits, what it was like, and so many of them have reported they were blown away seeing their heroes on the walls of the studio, their dressing rooms, et cetera. And I'm sure there's got to be a couple of great stories of when that reaction happened.
I don't know. The musicians being blown away by my work. I can't. I mean, the best I can say is Leonard Cohen used one of my pictures for an album cover. That's the best thing I can say about
that's
myself.
Pretty great. But no, they didn't know. They hadn't seen that performance. They hadn't seen that show. They didn't know that person had been Austin City Limits. And then they were just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. That's what they were saying.
Well, my whole deal is to try to distill down their performance into one really blow you away image. That's the job description. And I work until I get it. I do. I know how, and I do it.
I think that happens every time somebody comes to a show at our Moody Theater, because if they walk through that gallery on the mezzanine level and see those photos, I'm sure there are lots of oh wow moments that happen every night. When we put out a book, like we've done several times now, those photos have to be approved by the artists or by their representatives. So, it's got to be good to make the cut for that. But honestly, I don't know. I've often wondered how often artists actually see the photographs that Scott takes in any shape or form, either in the book. Most artists don't come and walk through the photo gallery at our venue when they come to do a taping. I wish they could, but they do see them in the dressing room where I do my interviews at the end of the night.
I have treasure chests full of shots that no one will ever see, just because of volume. It's pure volume. It's like a fire hose. I mean, what are they going to look at? How are they going to get access? I don't know, but somebody will someday. I mean, are these things still going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at the end? I mean, there was talk of that years ago. You know?
I'm not sure exactly what goes there or what not.
Okay, all right. Well, there was talk of that before.
Scott and Terry, do either of you do anything to help the artist out with either the audio or video after the show's over?
Oh, yes, for sure. It's up to the artist, like so many things. The artist gets to choose what songs they want to perform on the show. They get to choose which songs make the edit before it airs on PBS. And if they want to do the mix, if they want to send in their producer to do it at our house, or if they want to take it and do it at their own studio someplace, that's entirely on them to do. And these days, almost more often than not, that's what they prefer to do. So yes, the artist has essentially complete creative control over almost all of the elements of a show, from the beginning through the end. So that's one of the things, again, that sets us apart from other TV.
So is that like the drums are louder or softer, or is that auto-tune on the vocals?
No, that's every show that we do is remixed. And as I say, it's either remixed by us or by the artists themselves. Sometimes it is the artist or their producer. So, and that affects the mix in every way, shape, and form, you know, whether it's adding more drums or more reverb or some special effects.
I'm sorry, you're asking me what? About mixing? I don't
No, but, I mean, they don't enhance the photographs.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, I don't go in and take heads off and replace them, except on, I've done it a couple times. I had Ralph Stanley and Bill Monroe shaking hands and smiling. Turned out
We don't remove wrinkles or do anything.
no, I don't.
No touch-ups.
It happens sometimes, especially female artists. I'm remembering Miranda Lambert, especially wanted her. What was it? Thighs trimmed down? Yeah, thighs trimmed down. Stuff like that. It doesn't happen that often. It really doesn't. So, but I did replace a smiling Bill Monroe with one that was unsmiling, because evidently it was impossible to get.
One last footnote I'll make is that, you know, as I said, we let the artists remix the shows themselves. So we did a show like about a year ago with a couple of legendary rock and roll artists. I won't mention their names. We sent them the mix from their show to redo, and when they sent it back, they had completely overdubbed the vocals from their show. They didn't ask if they could, but again, we let the artists basically do that, do the mix. And the problem was that when they overdubbed the vocals, they didn't bother to try to match them up with the video. So we started getting some comments from our viewers saying, "Why, that is out of sync. Can't you tell their lips are not moving in sync with the music?" By that time, it was too late to do anything about it, but let's just say lesson learned in that case, just to make sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen again.
Yeah, this is kind of a technical question again. You know, the old studio you shot in, the perception of space was so incredible when you saw it on TV, and when you were there live, so different. And then you moved into the new space. How did it affect both of your work? The new place.
Well, first of all, the first studio was small, intimate, and it looked like it was small and intimate. It felt that way. And we took advantage of that by having, you know, tree limbs suspended from the ceiling. We could really make it look like it was outside with that small thing. Anyway, the new studio is, we have critical mass there. The old one, there was a much smaller audience, and after a while, after the show ground on, a lot of those people, there were only 300 in there, went off to relieve their babysitters and left nobody in the audience. So we ran into problems like that with the old studio because of the size of the audience. The new studio, you're not going to have that problem. You're going to have other problems, like if you have South by Southwest there and everybody won't stop talking during the shows. I think we've learned not to book shows. Anyway. But go ahead.
There was definitely something about Studio 6A that created the illusion that it really was outside. And everybody, the people watching at home, of course, but people from Dave Grohl to Pearl Jam and Paul Simon Paul McCartney make the same comment. So when we moved to the new venue, the Moody Theater, obviously we were a little nervous about losing that sense of intimacy. What few people realize who've been to both the original studio and the Moody is that it's the same footprint. It's about 10,000 square feet, same as Studio 6A and in our new venue. The stage still comes out into the room. The audience still surrounds it sort of in a horseshoe shape. And the idea being to capture that same intimacy, but on a different scale, because we have 3 levels, a mezzanine and a balcony. It brings a lot more energy to the room if we're doing a show with somebody like Pearl Jam or Coldplay or Kendrick Lamar. But at the same time, we feel like it still has that intimacy that works well for TV. And again, if you're going to see a show and you're one of 1,500 people, that's still a pretty intimate experience compared to going to see it at a festival or at an arena somewhere. But does it feel different? Yes, and it really doesn't look anymore like it's outdoors in a park. No. But also back in Studio 6A, we were still shooting our shows in standard definition video. You know, once we moved to the high definition, and you literally can see every wrinkle and every flaw and detail. So that illusion maybe doesn't really apply anymore so much, but it is what it is.
You work with what you got, and then
exactly.
I have a question for Scott Newton. So earlier you mentioned that you studied Greek and that really inspired you, but you also mentioned something that I was not aware of, that you traveled a lot. So did you find yourself inspired by what you saw on your travels as a kid that made you want to pick up a camera and capture that, and that led you to that as well?
I can't say it led me to want to pick up a camera, but it flowed naturally. I did pick up a camera. I didn't really have a want beforehand, but once I did pick it up, I found I could use it. I knew what to say. I had something to say with it. I learned how to tell. I knew how to tell a story. And that's really what you got to have.
Because you have shot other stuff besides
I'm
music.
not just a music photographer. I did all the Texas Democratic Party politics before they went away in '96. I did all the Democratic.
Not a lot of work out there.
I did
now.
almost all of it. I worked for Pete Laney. I did all the contested races on the Democratic side. So I was a political photographer until the Democrats went away. That's really what happened in Texas.
Gotcha. Howdy. So this is kind of for both of you as well. I'm just curious. So one of the things that I've always loved about Austin City Limits is the diversity of artists. And I know it started out as more of a show highlighting Central Texas and country-based artists. When did you feel that shift to a broader kind of, I guess this is a question for Terry, but booking, when did you feel that shift start to happen? And then Scott, was there anything that as you saw a wider diversity of ensemble sizes and just other bands and whatnot, did you feel like you had to adjust your photography technique?
Thing about photography is you always have to adjust. You have to be shooting the truth of now, not the truth that you think you'll see, or it's what's there now. So that dictates, how you respond, how you render it, and that's what I found.
Yeah, if you're shooting a solo guitarist, you have to adjust from what your focus is if you're shooting an ensemble or a 15-piece orchestra.
Exactly, that's right.
As far as the bookings themselves, I mean, it became apparent to me pretty quick when I became the producer in season 4. We had already begun to recycle some of the same artists, same bands who had played on ACL for the first 2 or 3 years. And again, when I became producer, it was an opportunity in my hands to do something more with the show at that point. And I really wanted to expand the limits and include all kinds of music from anywhere and everywhere. So Tom Waits was literally the first show that I booked as the new producer, which definitely raised some eyebrows. Like, wait a minute, he's no Tom. I mean, he's no Willie Nelson. But to this day, people will point to that show as one of the classics of all time. So I'd say right away from the beginning when I became producer and started booking these shows that I wanted to, definitely stretch those limits and start booking all kinds of music, not just from Austin or Central Texas.
You got resistance from Bill, didn't you?
Over the year, it was kind of weird. Certain artists would just kind of like, no, I don't even want to consider. Alejandro Escobedo, no, I don't think he's quite ready to do a show like ours. But, he was the executive producer, so I was not going to,
You picked your fights and you got
fall
Tom
on the
Waits.
sword over something like that. The time came when Bill was convinced and realized that he had some value to bring to the show, and so I've booked him several times since then.
Yeah.
So-
No, you're a good booker, too. You're always on the ahead of the curve.
I try, not always.
That's a good segue. So next question, I guess, for you guys is what happens after your tenure? Do you guys think the spirit can stay alive of what you guys have brought to the show and keep bringing that forward with the next generations to come in your role?
I would like to think so, just as we have managed to maintain the spirit, the soul of the show over the years. I think we have cultivated a culture, if that's the right way to put it, that will hopefully sustain the show through generations, not only generations of artists and music, but of producers and all of the creative people that work on a show like ours, from the lighting to the sound and the cameras and everything in between. I don't really worry that, what's going to happen if I should hand off some of the control of booking or some of the creative things that we do that make Austin City Limits look and feel special and different from everything else. I think there are plenty of people who want to maintain that same spirit. I have no doubt about that.
Well, we've got a winner. We've got something that works really, really well, and it seems like we're ahead of. We don't grow old with it. So I don't see an end other than some of us.
I wouldn't say don't mess with a good thing, because
Right.
we have messed with a good thing and made it a great thing after 50 years. So again, I think that change is definitely a good thing, but we have found the right kind of change in the right kind of spirit of the show and what it stands for.
One last question.
Going back to Hector's comment about could this have happened anywhere else, you were it was a perfect storm. The Armadillo, Cheatham Street, lots of places
Yep.
had
Opry
Stevie
House.
Ray Vaughan on Tuesday, George Strait on Thursday,
Right. Right.
different people playing. And so it probably, would you say it made it easier for you to have a broad array of music as opposed to just country when you started having Tom Waits and Joaquin Carrasco and people like that come on stage?
Yeah, and the Opera House used to do a lot more than just country music when it was in business. So did the Armadillo, for that matter. But even beyond the 70s and the progressive country scene, we had Antones, which was fertile ground for Stevie Ray and the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Even as recently as the last few years, Sea Boys is where I first saw and heard about Black Pumas. There is still, despite the crisis that affects not only music venues in Austin and record stores and all of us who are trying to make a living off of this thing called music, but they persevere. Again, this gets back to that community of people in Austin that want to make sure live music continues, and I hope they will always work to continue that part of our culture there. And Austin City Limits is very much a part of that. But I think these venues, they come and go, and there's a new generation of music venues and people who are trying to promote the idea of live music, and hopefully that will continue.
I hope we can keep the live music happening. The show, the rents are, I guess they're not going up now, but it sure seems like it. Anyway, it's become a lot less friendly town for poor musicians, which...
or poor anybody.
Poor anybody, really. So, those of us who have, all invested in, I'm invested in Austin as much as I can be, but I don't know how somebody coming here, making the money that you can make and spending the money you have to spend to live here, that winnows out a lot of people. So I'm a little bit depressed about where things are going as far as that. I think we've kind of killed the golden goose on a lot of... to some extent. But all that being said, this is a town of some very creative people, so we've been able to surmount most of these things. I see it going on, personally.
There's a lot of that going on right here in San Marcos, as a matter of fact. Actually, I spent the night here in San Marcos last night before today's panel, and I could hear a lot of live music, like literally across the street from where I was. And it reminded me a lot of what Austin used to be like back in the day. There's a lot of live music, a lot of places. The nightlife in San Marcos is a lot different, shall we say, from South Congress Avenue in Austin or East 6th Street. But I think there is plenty of hope, plenty of reason to be optimistic.
These are the good old days for somebody just moving here, you know?
Well, I want to thank Scott Newton and Terry Lickona. Thank you so much. Scott Newton, Beyond Limits. So the exhibit will be up for a year. We are very proud of that. And I need to thank again our presenting partners, Austin PBS, very important for us, Modern Rocks Gallery. They have their heritage collection, photographs of Scott's work. There's postcards at the desk in the front if you want to learn more about that, if you'd like to purchase some of those great, great images. I want to thank Scott so much. We helped, and Susie and the dog. We pulled it together, but mostly thank you for your support. We can't do it without the audience, and have a great Sunday.